supposed to hear from the new Black Panther Party coming up in a couple of minutes. I want to find out what they have planned for this coming election. You know, that was an issue during the last election. Found out they have anything planned. And they also were what I take as threats for the Republican National Convention. But we'll hopefully hear from them in a couple of minutes. Let's get back some phone calls, 248-356-1270. Dave in Detroit, you're on the air.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir.
Oh, good. I just had a couple of comments. My one, you made the comment, the Republican, the old, party of the rich, old white rich guy or whatever. One of the problems, and I think it could dispel the whole theory, Romney could really throw a bone right at him. If he would propose, because we're talking about his taxes, what they fail to say is Romney gives more money to charity than he does his tax rate, which is what you're supposed to do, really. But the problem is, the dirty secret of America is trust funds. And if Republicans would propose to put a trust fund, just a one-time, this is the famous Democratic way to tax, a famous one-time we need your money tax, only this year on all trust funds of a 5% levy right across the board, no deductions, you would see the Democrats run, hide, and scour. And you dispel this whole 1% garbage, whether it's George Soros with his thievery, following the British pound, or whoever, or the Heinz fortune. That's where all the money is in this country in these trust funds.
Oh, you're right, because
has it. Deborah Schultz Wasserman has hers. That's how you totally disarm them. Romney already gives plenty of money to charity.
Well, you're right, because they want to, and I've said this many times, they want to say, look at all the rich people like Mitt Romney and all those people have money. But how many of them, the president, whoever, they hang out with rich people, they take their money, they're all part of the same group. You're absolutely right, Dave. That's brilliant. That's how they have to start looking at this stuff. You have to start calling people out in an honest fashion on both sides when they screw this stuff up. The bottom line is we should have to work for what we have. There shouldn't be handouts except for very small cases where people are truly unable to take care of themselves, and that is not the 47 million that are on welfare right now. Chawn Kweli from the New Black Panthers, welcome back to the Doc Thompson Show. How are you?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Listen, I wanted to have you on, get an update of what the New Black Panthers have for the Republican convention. Are you protesting it?
We are not protesting it.
Do you have no plans between now and the end of it to protest?
We have no plans between now and the end of it to protest at all.
All right, because I saw some things, and I know this was in a conversation back and forth where there were some, what I take as threats of what could happen, what you were hoping happened at the Republican National Convention. Step on their necks and...
Well, that was Sister Michelle Williams, Chief of Staff out of Tampa, Florida. I'm sure that you and most of the listening audience have heard by now her comments. And what she was expressing concern over what she termed the siege of the city of Tampa with the impending, at that time, Republican convention and the amount of security and procedures that were happening and some of the mistreatment that some of the citizens were saying they were receiving on the ground. So that's what she was referring to, but we have no official plans to protest anything going on at the Republican National Convention.
All right, let me play just this clip so people know what we're talking about, because I haven't played it yet, and I'm talking with Chawn Kweli from the New Black Panthers. And you say she is the spokesperson in Florida?
She is the Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff?
Our Tampa chapter.
Of your Tampa chapter. Here's what it was that I was referring to.
But other than that, you better believe my foot on your goddamn motherfucker's neck.
That's pretty inflammatory. So you have no plans to protest. What about this upcoming election? I know during the last election, the New Black Panthers were out pretty well. They were visible. There were even some court cases. Are you planning on doing anything on Election Day?
Only the same way we always do, which is organize our people towards self-determination. We don't have a stake in it either way it goes.
What do you mean in self-determination?
I mean the self-determination of black people. To offset what's happening in terms of some of the racial disparities, what's going on with some of the killings at the hands of police forces, and what's going on with black-on-black violence. This is what we do 24 hours a day.
But do you have plans to show up at any of the polling places, batons, anything like that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not unless it's something legal.
Well, I mean, something that was legal. I mean, obviously, the things that happened last time were, okay, technically illegal, but nothing happened to you. Nothing happened to the members that were out there.
I'm not even referring to that. In the case of Minister King Samir Shabazz, who has no interest at all in showing up at a polling place and repeating any of that history. I'm speaking of a man like Jerry Jackson, who is a registered poll watcher, and he's a supporter of the Democratic ticket, and so that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so at this point you have no plans. You don't know of any new Black Panther that's going to be standing there with the baton like last time, just making sure things go right.
No, sir. We have no plans to do it. Now, if there's some white supremacist threats that the community informs us of, that we may have to make adjustments. We have no intention at all to do what they call voter intimidation, even though no one was denied the vote that time in 2008.
But to talk a little bit about the 2008 case, would you consider it voter intimidation if the KKK was standing outside a polling place?
Absolutely not. I don't fear the KKK.
No. But I mean, for other people who may fear the KKK, you wouldn't consider that voter intimidation? I can't.
If indeed they're denied the vote, maybe that would be the case. But I think that more falls along the lines of paranoia, or even some perceived threats. But again, we're talking voter intimidation, and no one was denied the vote. No one was swayed against a candidate, and so we can't say that.
Do you agree with the voter ID laws that you ought to have to present a photo identification to vote?
The jury's out on that. I don't know, because you get off into profiling and what have you. I mean, I don't know about that. The jury's still out on it. I'm still looking into it, to be honest.
Well, I understand, but I mean, it does seem pretty simple, though, and the reason I bring it up is so many people say that would be a form of disenfranchising people or keeping people from their votes simply because they have to present an ID, and that just doesn't make sense to me, Chawn.
Well, like I say, we're still in the new Black Panther Party looking at it ourselves, but in earnest, we're not, again, putting all our eggs in that basket anyway. We believe in grassroots momentum and power, so either way it goes, it just got to be fair.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Some of the quotes that are attributed to members of the new Black Panther, whether it was that chief of staff at the Tampa chapter or others, they're really inflammatory. I mean, they're really things that I think a lot of people would say border on violence. There's one from May 21st. You should be thankful we're not running around here hanging crackers by nooses and all that kind of stuff yet.
Well, we should be thankful, don't you think?
Once white people die, we should dig them up, kill them again, bury them, dig them up, kill them again, so on and so forth. Okay. I mean, do you agree with all that stuff?
Again, we have to we have to put things in context. That comes from a radio broadcast where a brother named Taco was talking about attacks, racist mob attacks against black people, and he was saying in self-defense that, when you're going to defend yourself, and basically in words to make sure that individual doesn't harm you again, you keep on making sure that person stays in the ground. You got to hear the whole broadcast. But again, we see everything that we say from self-defense. You don't have, again, a record of us doing anything against white people, old white ladies, or anything like that. We are a peaceful people. We believe in peace when possible and violence when necessary.
Now, the new Black Panthers think that the races should be separated in America. That you should have your own country. Is that right? If I remember right,
we believe in separation. We believe. Well, let me say that America is already separated, contrary to some popular belief. Hell, Sunday morning is the most segregated hour in the country. But even in saying that, we believe that we should have some of this good earth to call our own. We believe that we should be able to, of course, organize our own schools, our own hospitals, our own banks to take care of our own. Absolutely.
Now, do you mean that as a separate country?
If we can get it as a separate country and we're not able to have it peacefully here in America, absolutely.
How is there any practical way to set that up? Have you ever given thought to that?
What do you mean practical way? There's countries, Britain and England. We're talking U.S. history. When the founding fathers separated from England, they came into North America, didn't they, and separated and carved out some earth to call their own, which we're standing on today. We believe it's absolutely practical. And if people like Patrick Henry can say, give me liberty or give me death, we say freedom or death. It's absolutely practical.
No, I certainly support that. I mean, freedom or death, I absolutely agree with that. That's a strong position. But there's not a lot of land that isn't claimed so far. I mean, unless you're planning on going to Antarctica.
There's plenty of land, 29,000 square miles of useful land that can be used. Absolutely.
You're talking American land in America that you would separate from America then.
If we're talking about the land in America, absolutely.
Is there other places around the world that you would consider too?
Well, like I said, of course, we would never leave out the mother continent of Africa. We would never leave out any place that's peaceful and welcoming black people. We believe in 196,940,000 square miles we can travel. So we're just trying to, again, carve out land of our own for our own people and self-determination.
Let me ask you, last week we played, earlier in the week, played some clips of Chris Matthew from MSNBC, who chastised some who talk about welfare, wanting to reform welfare and requiring people to work for welfare and stuff like that. Just mentioning that, Chris Matthews says that's playing the race car and that's racist. Do you agree with that? Just mentioning welfare and that's playing the race card?
I don't agree that it's racist just mentioning the race card, but I do say that it has been used in a racist pretext too much, especially in the media. In the media, it's portrayed that a lot of times it's only black people or black folks that are on welfare, and that's just absolutely not supported by the facts. But I don't think just mentioning welfare is racist in itself. No, I don't.
Because I got to tell you, Chawn, you sound a lot more sane and rational than Chris Matthews, because no, you're right. There's more white people
some
on.
Some of your listeners might get upset with you over that.
No, you're right. You're right, but it's true. Based on when I play on Chris Matthews, he right off just mentioning welfare, he says like for example, Chawn, he would say that if I say, listen, we've got to reform welfare. There's too many people on welfare. People aren't working. He's saying that right off is me playing the race card, and it has nothing to do with it. There are more white people on welfare than minorities. But by you saying the same thing, I got to say that you sound a lot more rational.
Well, like I'm saying, we're just talking about straight up playing the race card. No, mentioning welfare in itself, I don't believe is racism. I just believe that it's used too often in regards to pointing to black people in an impoverished condition.
Now, Chawn, I'm speaking with Chawn Kweli from the New Black Panthers. Do you have any white members of the New Black Panthers?
No, we do not.
Would you support any white members?
Support white members where, sir?
Joining the New Black Panthers?
No, sir.
You're saying that's it? If there's a white person, you cannot join?
This is a black organization for black people, the descendants of African slaves. I don't think you qualify.
The reason I say that is there's often white organizations that are saying whatever they are, the white real estate or the realtors of America or whatever, where it's white, or country music television or the white whatever, and they say we should make sure to allow more minorities in, and then you have minority groups that say, well, we're going to do the black realtors or whatever. And they often will let other people in. You're saying your group is completely separate. You should not be in if you're not black.
Well, this is a completely different scenario. We are dealing with specific ills and occurrences that happen to black people, and also trying to give our people a knowledge of ourselves. And as utopian as we would like to make the scenario, there are no white people or even brown people or red people or yellow people who have been robbed of their name, their language, their culture, their folkways, foreways, norm, and the power of their own being. We have specific incidents that we have to deal with as a family. And so, unfortunately, because of the effects and the mental trauma of our servitude, or our forefather and foremothers' servitude in America, black people tend to act different around white folks. Let's just be real. We act different.
How do you act different? What do you mean?
We have to because you have again when a people have gone through what we call terrorism, brutal terrorism, which we refer to as slavery, and the face of that taskmaster is Caucasian. Then even subconsciously, the effects of that terrorism is passed down through generations. You call it in warfare post-traumatic disorder. Black people suffer from post-traumatic slave disorder. And so as much as black people try to fit in, or would like to fit into the status quo, and some do a good job of going to their day-to-day activity, black people still act differently. around white people than they do around themselves. So we have to deal with our own community issues first before we can ever think about dealing with anybody else.
But what if there was a white person that was like, listen, all they care about, their passion in life is righting wrongs that they see that line up exactly in line with what the new Black Panthers believe, and they say, listen, Chawn, this is all I want to work for day in and day out. You say no, that you just can't understand.
I would never deny anyone the ability to do anything wrong. I'm sure there are whites out there, as taught by the Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, who feel like that there is injustices, and that there are even whites today who had nothing to do with the slave trade, and maybe even wish that it didn't happen, and maybe even would wish to be like a John Brown or a Marilyn Buck, and would wish to work against white supremacy and the racism and the power structure or what have you. In saying all of that, still they're free to organize. They just can't join the organization.
Now, what about marrying? Does the new Black Panthers believe in interracial marriaging of any sort?
We believe that the original black man should be with the original black woman, or that the melanated people should be together.
And that's it.
That's it.
Now, what about, how do you feel? Let me ask you this. I'm talking with Chawn Kweli, the new Black Panthers. How do you feel about the KKK, another white supremacist group? What are your opinions?
My honest assessment here is that the KKK, if you're talking about the KKK of yesterday, I can appreciate more the KKK of yesterday openly expressing their feelings than those who hide their feelings in positions of authority today.
Okay, so you're saying back in the day they were open about it and you appreciate that. But what about their ideas? Because their ideas are very similar to yours.
How do you figure?
Well, because they're saying they believe that, the races should be completely separate. And, I mean, it's pretty much what you're saying.
Well, they're doing it from a completely different premise. They're doing their mission. They have their organization to uphold old American values. We have our position because of the situations that have happened to our people. Apples and oranges.
I don't understand. Can you explain?
Well, I mean, when you look at the situation of say, a James Craig Anderson, 49, who was murdered by young white teens right there in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, ran over by a Ford pickup truck, okay, not doing nothing, just some white teens who said they were going to find them a black person to mess with. Or you look at the histories of a Oscar Grant, or you look at the histories of a Victor Steen, or you look at a Aaron Campbell, or anybody in our people who have been murdered like that. You don't see that happening in white communities, at least not at all to that degree. And so we're speaking, in specific the new Black Panther Party. We are speaking from a completely different premise than, say, a Ku Klux Klan member who feels they have superiority just because they have white skin.
So you're saying it all comes from the history?
Correct. And the history is what built the present tense.
And obviously, you wouldn't let, some white supremacist group try to keep you down or give you the business or something, but you have to support their ideas, though, of racial segregation, right?
I don't have to support the ideas just because I want to separate. Us wanting to separate is so that we can be in peace and to have what we call self-determination. It has nothing to do with supporting their ideas, because in actuality, that white power is in total disrespect to everything that we're standing on. So
now, come on, you don't really believe that there's this institutionalized racism that it's all around us and everything, do you?
Well, why wouldn't you believe it is a better question?
Why wouldn't I? I don't have any special advantage because I'm white.
I don't know about that. According to the statistics, there are more blacks who are likely to be incarcerated for the same offense than white people. I don't know about that.
Well, maybe they're committing more of the offenses.
I don't know about that because we're only 12.6 of the population, sir. So I mean,
I'm just saying there may be a lot of blacks that are doing the wrong thing.
There's a lot of whites that are doing the wrong thing. So
no, you're right. I'm just saying,
why aren't we being tried equally, sir?
Well, no, they may be tried equal. I'm just saying maybe there are more blacks actually doing it.
The stats don't support that.
But the stats are based on who went to jail and who's busted and whatever. Then those stats would be, if you look at jails, that the stats say that, yeah, more blacks are responsible for whatever it is.
How can more blacks be responsible and be less of the population of the United States? There's as much violent crime among white people and among brown people, whoever, as it is of black people. It's black people that are being arrested and put in these penitentiaries.
No, it could be. I mean, it only takes a handful of people to commit the crimes. What that means is a greater percentage of the blacks are doing the things if they are in jail.
You can't support that. You can't support that based upon the facts. It just means that black people are being tracked down and arrested more. But there's far more white collar crime or corporate crime.
Well, but what are you basing that on? That blacks are being tracked down more?
Well, based upon the statistics, FBI statistics. If you go to FBI.gov, they tell you flat out that what they call African Americans or black males are likely to be arrested 10 to 1 in America.
That may be because they're doing 10 to 1 the crimes.
How do you support that?
Because they're being arrested 10 to 1. That's the stat we have.
That's not true. That's not true. If you have again, you look at the case of New York City, you look at stop and frisk, you look at other incidences around the country and what they consider racial profiling. The fact of the matter is that it is a prerequisite disposition for blacks to automatically be assumed to be criminal than it is any other people. And that is why there's a heavy concentration or a more intern concentration of police in the black community than anywhere else. But we're still saying that even with that amount of police, that police saturation, there's still more crime. So the point I'm saying is it has nothing to do with the amount of police or who's going to jail. It has everything to do with the class society and that which we're being taught.
I'm speaking with Chawn Kweli of the new Black Panther. Chawn, I think it's a lot easier, and you don't get into conspiracies if you say that there are how many blacks are incarcerated? What percentage did you say?
10 to 1.
It's 10 to 1. So there's 10 blacks to every one white person in prison. Is what you're saying?
It's going to jail. That's right. Okay. Actual fact.
What I would say then, and this is much more simple to say than blacks are responsible 10 to 1 more than whites for the crimes.
Well, but you can't say that.
Well, no, I can because they're in the jail. What you're talking about, the things you bring up, are still all of these boogeyman type things that somehow the cops are trying to get black people, that white people are trying to keep black people down. When Chawn, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'll let you in on a little secret, okay? Do you remember the old Eddie Murphy bit where he dresses up as the white guy on Saturday Night Live? Did you ever see that?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to imagine for a second you did that. You dressed up as a white person. You're hanging out with me, Skip, and Boz on my show, some of the people around my office, my family, whatever. Well, I know, but if you did, you wouldn't find that conspiracy like Eddie Murphy. You would find normal, honest people who don't care about race. We don't care about it.
But that's because you all don't make the laws. That's because you all are not in power. You're everyday, average, working class, white men and women. When we're talking about white power, we're talking about those who have the ability to use prejudice plus power. That's what we're talking about.
What is the Black Holocaust? What is? I know the Jewish Holocaust. We say Holocaust. We're talking about the Jews that were exterminated in Europe during World War II. What is the Black Holocaust?
The Black and that's such a great question. I appreciate you asking that. The Black Holocaust is what you hear about in the universities or in the schools as the Atlantic slave trade. But we call it straight up the Black Holocaust or the Black hell of a cost that we have paid in the hells of North America. But it's called in the textbooks the Atlantic slave trade. That's the Black Holocaust.
All right. Chawn Kweli from the new Black Panthers. I appreciate you joining us, sir. Thank you so much. As always, fascinating conversation.
It's always a privilege and honor to be able to represent the teachings of the Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Dr. Malik Shabazz, and the new Black Panther Party. It's black power for black people, and it's all power to the people. Stay strong.
All right, sir.
Win in the end.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.